So I've had two transitions. Like I've had transitions all my life. In all sorts, we're all transitioning all the time. But for
Right.
the argument's sake, I've had two transitions. One is my gender, and one is my mindset. And the gender was going from a pain to pleasure. And the pain was living in the body. That wasn't my truth anymore. The pleasure was the dream. I formed a dream in the course of counseling and so forth that I had. And it was me standing on a beach in a swimsuit with my hair falling onto my shoulders and the wind blowing across my skin, and that was me as a woman on the beach. But what I'm trying to say is that there was an away from and a towards, and for me the towards was way more. I wanted the towards more than I was frightened of doing it.
I'm Jessie.
And I'm Omar.
If you're a midlife professional facing a career shift, a relationship change, or a deeper calling you can't ignore, you've just found your home.
We've been there, and we discovered they weren't breakdowns, they were breakthroughs.
And now we're bringing you the tools, insights, and real conversations that help turn life's challenges into powerful new beginnings.
If you're asking, who am I now? What's next for me? This podcast is your guide.
Let's grow, rise, and reinvent together.
Tune in, you're right on time.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the ASQ podcast. Today, my guest is Bobbi Barrington. Welcome, Bobbi. Thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, hey, Jessie. It's a delight to be here. I'm really looking forward to this.
Yes, me too. I have to tell you, I just love your accent already.
What accent?
I do. I'm a big person on accents. When I hear somebody's accent, I'm like, where are you from? Or, and I just love it. And I can tell that initially I already knew you were, I read about I read your bio, so I know you're in Australia, but I love that. I love it.
Well, I don't hear my accent, and I'm sure you don't hear yours either, but
do I have an accent to you?
Yeah.
Really? Cool. Okay. I feel like I'm just the Southern Florida normal girl. I don't have an accent.
Yeah.
There is an accent, they say, for Floridians, though, so I believe that. So, but how are you?
I'm fabulous. I'm really
super excited to meet you.
Yeah. I'm on the Sunshine Coast in Queensland, Australia. So just out my window here is a golf course, and on the other side of that is the beach, and on our side of the Pacific Ocean. And it's just gorgeous, a beautiful part of the world.
I can only imagine. I have one question I'm very curious about because I've never been to Australia. So don't mind me, please, whoever's listening and watching. Are the waves really gigantic there?
The big ones are.
Yeah.
The little ones are not.
No. Is it like it has to be like a storm, or are the waves naturally high?
Oh, look, I think there are parts of the world where there are like massive waves, like Hawaii, for example. Right. It's famous for that. But I think down south around Victoria and Tasmania, they must be. Okay. I've never actually measured them. So.
But because we have little waves here in Florida, at least where I'm at. You know what I mean? So I always. You watch movies and whatever, and you think, oh my God, look at the size of those waves. But I'm sure it's a movie. It's probably dramatized for TV, right? So I was just curious. Silly question. To break the ice. All right. You want to get started? I'm excited to get to learn more about you.
Let's go, Jessie. Yeah.
All right. So one of the questions that we ask on the ASQ podcast is, where were you pitched? Meaning, where were you born? What was your family structure like? Did you have brothers and sisters, your parents? What was it? Talk to me about that.
Okay, so I'm 66 now, and exactly.
Yeah, I'm 66.
No, people think I look 47 until they see my behavior, and then they think I'm 19. No.
Okay. No, you really don't look 66. Wow. Okay.
Well, no, I'm 66, and I have never felt younger, actually. Nice. and I've never felt more free than I do now, or happier. And all of these, we were talking a little while ago about authenticity,
Yes.
and I have dropped. So I'm a trans woman, and in that process, like I look so much younger, and I must have dropped 20 years in how I looked to who I
Wow.
was before. If you see the pictures of who I was,
Right.
to now, easily 20 years. And that's a combination of things, like estrogen,
Right.
skincare is a good
Right.
thing. Being happy. Being happy is lost so many years of how I look by being happy. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, don't spoil it yet. Talk to me about your childhood first, and then we're going to get to that part because I'm very curious to hear about your entire story, all of it.
All right. I was born in Sydney, Australia, and I have two sisters. And like we've gone in various directions, and one of them is still my beautiful younger sister, and the other one I have like no relationship with, like sibling stuff, of course, for various reasons. So I was born in Sydney, and I've always loved Sydney. But we left when I was 7 and moved to Melbourne, which is down in Victoria, and then actually I grew up in Adelaide, which is in South Australia. And so I was in South Australia till I was about 27 when I went abroad and I went traveling and I went backpacking, and I lived in London, England, for some 25 years or so. Long time.
Yeah.
And so I spent nearly half of my life living overseas and traveled a lot. So I've been around the world a few times and traveled a lot through Asia, and like done all sorts of things, like driven a steam train, seen tigers, gone on bullock wagons, and went up to Annapurna in Nepal and through Asia, across China, the Trans-Manchurian Railway, all sorts of things,
Right.
Because
Did you, as a child, like aspire to do something like that, or did you just kind of, it just happened?
It's kind of interesting because I'm very adventurous. I love travel. I love new people, new ideas. Like I love having my ideas challenged and opening minds. We'll get onto that. Opening minds. Yeah. I love that my view of the world is not the only view of the world. I love that people do things differently, and it's not right or wrong. It just is, and I just love that. Like, can I tell you a little story about something that along those lines? I was in Malacca in southern Malaysia, and went to. I was in a restaurant and asked for a glass of milk, and they brought me this glass of milk, and it was warm. And I thought, I don't want warm milk; I just want cold milk. So they went back, and the communication wasn't great, but they went back and they came back, and it was warm again. I said, no, look, I don't want warm milk; I want cold milk. And the problem was that I thought that they would have had milk from a cow in a milk bottle, sort of thing, and they warmed it up. And that was my worldview, that was what milk was. But for them, milk was powdered milk, which they had to prepare with hot water or something like that in order to
dissolve it.
So our whole worldviews were like different.
Yes.
And it took, a bit of time to actually work out what was going on there, really.
Interesting.
It was just quite an interesting challenge to my concept of what milk was, of all things.
How funny is it for you? I mean, in general, that something that simple or kind of like not a big deal, like most people would forget about it or whatever, had such an impact on you in terms of your worldview.
Absolutely. And it's Look, it's not about the milk, obviously. It's a metaphor for
Right.
communication
Yes.
and models of the world, and
Right.
neither was right nor wrong. They were just different.
Exactly. Just different. Yes. Oh my gosh. I love it. You're speaking my language, So if anybody knows about the ASQ or ASQ in general, that's exactly what we focus on is
No.
shifting our perspectives and taking from our experiences to then develop a philosophy for how you show up in these moments, right? And that's an evolving process, but not about me. We're talking about you. Take me back to your childhood really quick. What was your relationship like with your family? Like your not your family, but your mom and dad?
So this is a cause of some trouble because my father was an alcoholic,
Okay.
and the youngest of so both of my parents were children of fathers who'd fought in France in the First World War.
Oh, okay.
So there is that kind of trauma that could have occurred,
Right.
and also parents who grew up who were young adults through the Depression.
Mm-hmm.
So there are these major factors in world history which affect, generational. I'm going to say trauma because I don't know what
Right.
other word to put there, but and my father was the youngest of three and two other boys, and I feel that he was never really grew up in a way. He was always spoilt and needy, and anyway, like it affected my childhood until now. And I grew up. I feel, Jessie, that I spent my whole life being frightened,
Okay.
and I feel that it goes back to when I was a child and trying to not be seen, not be heard, stay safe. Stay safe by not standing out. And I spent all my life being introverted, and until now, when having transitioned and having done so much work on my mindset
Right.
and on my emotional maturity and development and personal power, the coaching that I've had, the inner work that I've done on myself to grow myself, um, it's brought me to like this authenticity that is me now, that the non-conditioned part, because the introversion was conditioned. It was me trying to keep my little girl safe, trying to keep me safe. And now I am so extroverted. I did a Myers-Briggs thing, and it turns out I'm 91% extrovert. I mean, who
Oh,
knows their
really?
number? Who knows the number? Do you know your number? I bet you don't know your number.
I'm an introvert. I'm definitely so I know, and people are like, seriously, you're an introvert? I see your
Yeah.
videos on social media, and I'm like, listen,
Yeah.
that was a work in progress. I'm totally evolving right now. So I think
Yeah.
if I took it now, I might be a little bit more extroverted, but I'm very much an introvert.
Yeah. Well, it was not my true nature,
Right.
and now it is. And so now I'm 6 foot tall with purple hair and stand up in front of strangers and talk and like look at me. Like,
Love it.
I mean, I don't do it to look at me, but
No, no, no. I know what you mean. I know what you mean. I know what you mean. So let
yeah.
me ask you this then. So, you're transgendered. Take me to that. So, I just to make sure I'm getting it, so that we can go to the next place, right? With your
Yes.
story. So you grew up in a family, lovely younger sister. You don't have a relationship with your other sister. No problem. I get that. I mean, I'm very close to my brother for the most part, but other family dynamics, I get that. Things happen. So you grow up sort of conditioned to protect yourself, right?
Yes.
I
Yeah.
understand that too. I think that's sort of like a theme for a lot of people. Some people
Yeah.
have a great childhood, but I think there's always that element of not being able to speak out and say things and wanting to belong and wanting
Yes.
to be seen, right?
Yes.
and not having that opportunity. Is that kind of what you're saying with your family dynamics?
Oh, absolutely. And so we get childhood trauma and it stays with us like forever. I'm actually going through some processes at the moment with a certain chiropractic technique, which is releasing the years of stress that's built up into my spinal cord and nervous system. It's just extraordinary. But
Right.
that's for another talk, I think.
I'll have
But
to have you back for that one.
yeah, I know. But I don't. Looking back at my life, I wish it weren't how it was. And I know that you can say that it's made me who I am today and those sorts of things, but I don't look back at large portions of it, particularly when I was married, because I was married for 26 years.
So let's talk about that, because I'm curious. So I think why I was asking about your childhood, and I didn't mean to cut you off, but so you can go back to this, but a lot of times, not a lot of times, our family structures create or impact our sense of self, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm curious to know, since you grew up in that family dynamic, right? And you're touching on that now, how that family dynamic and that structure affected your sense of self and led you to the point where you ended up getting married. And I don't want to talk about, I want you to tell the story. So how did that evolve? Because you went backpacking. I don't know if you got married after that or before that, but I'm just very curious about how this family dynamic affected you in your young adult and then adulthood life and getting you to the point where you're at now. But let's start with that.
So, I obviously I was a man, I know, and as a young man, I moved out of home when I was 23. Mm-hmm. And I was so delighted to get out of home because at that stage, by that time, I really hated my father. And I feel that I hated him all my life, like for 40 years, until just quite recently when I gave up hating him, thinking that I didn't have capacity to hold that hate in me anymore. And, like finally realizing that he was doing the best he could, but I moved out of home, and it was like one of the best things that I ever did. And I moved in with some friends, and it was, and that was a fun time for me. And, then I went traveling, and I liked who I was in those days. There were aspects that I didn't like, but, I've always had this crappy money mindset my whole life. Right. And I'm still working on that, my money mindset. But then I went overseas when I was 27, and I met who was to become my wife when I was about 28 or so. And I am sorry to say that those years were the unhappiest, including when my children were born, so, and I feel that I don't believe I got married for the right reasons. I think I was, felt like this was my chance, perhaps, or, I don't think I was ready. I don't think I was mature enough. I don't think either of us were mature enough, and we were never emotionally very connected, and we certainly didn't talk about things that mattered. We were friends, and intellectually we were very compatible, but for the early years it was nice, but then when the children arrived and our priorities went in different directions, and so I'm quite a risk taker, and I think she wasn't. Like some people want stability and certainty.
Yeah.
Me, I love adventure and variety.
Right.
I don't do boring. I don't want to do maintenance kinds of things. I want excitement,
Right.
and
An experience.
that is not a good partner for someone who needs stability and certainty and reliability. And my income was variable, and there were times when there wasn't much, and I didn't handle that very well, and
Yeah.
she didn't handle it very well, and look, it's complicated,
Yeah.
really. But when so we lived in London for all those years, and my children were all born over there, and in 2013 we came back to Australia and went to Sydney, and it was so hard. It was such a hard time. They were the most difficult years from 2013 to 2019. Like, money was a problem, and instead of us coming together and talking about it, we just didn't have the emotional capacity to do that, or the emotional intelligence. I would now, but then I didn't. And so when I left, and during those years, you're probably going to ask me about when the transition the gender transition.
Actually, what I want to ask before you get to what I think you're going to tell me is, I'm wondering, so, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, in the time that you met your then wife and, connected and ended up getting married, was there anything in you at all that was kind of like, I don't know if I'm doing the right thing? Or were you just kind of going through the motions because this is what I'm supposed to be doing, and I'm just going to try it? You're an adventurous person, right? I'm just going to try this and see what happens and see where we land. Like, what was your mental sort of position at that moment to have you think, okay, I'm going to get married and do this? And you know what I mean? Like, for me, I know it was very cultural. I need to get married. I'm supposed to get married. I'm supposed to have kids, blah, blah, blah. What was that like for you? I'm very curious. And then this a two-part question. So that, and then the second question is, did you ever feel during this time period, this other side of you that felt this nagging pull towards, I'm not living authentically. I'm not living the life I'm supposed to be living. Like, talk to me about that, because I find that to be fascinating, because it's not just because of what you've gone through, but I think for a lot of people, and I even in my own life, when I think about how the hell did I get to the point that I'm at right now when I wasn't living the life I was supposed to be living? Like, this is insane. So talk to me about that.
So, well, one of the things I say is that I've lived 26 years in the wrong marriage, 40 years in the wrong career, and 59 years in the wrong body. Wow. Okay, so there are some clues there. One is the marriage. We talked about the marriage, really. But the career bit. So I'm a speaker. I'm a coach. I inspire people. I use words, I use language as tools to help people shift their mindsets, their belief systems. And yet I trained as an accountant.
Boring. I'm just kidding. I wanted to be an accountant too. And I was like, oh my God, what am I thinking? I want to do this.
So I was an accountant and a project manager, and I worked in the corporate sector.
Right.
And I originally did this because of pleasing my father
Mm.
and feeling emotional pressure to do this thing. And this,
Right.
so this 40 years of my working life doing something that I think I hated it. I think
Right.
it most certainly was not joyful for me. And I can hardly think of good days in all that time. And I'm sure there are and everything, but
Right.
by and large, that's like, so during this marriage, during like before it and during it, there was lots of periods of me feeling like an imposter, doing the wrong thing, don't know what the hell I'm doing, not lit up, not excited.
Right.
And all of that was running. It did pay me some reasonable money at various times, but I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to do my own thing. I I said I don't like this maintenance stuff. I don't like doing the same thing over and over. And so I'm always looking for new businesses to create. I'm always reading stuff and through this period of time. And it was like my hope and my aspiration, to one day do this thing. So I'm living this life in this marriage, which was not terribly happy,
Right.
doing this work that did not light me up at all, and I'm always trying to do something different. And there was a lot of dissatisfaction, a lot of inauthenticity in who I am in the world, and then transpired into who I am in my body.
Right.
And that's a whole different thing, because that surprised me as much as anyone. Like I look back on my life and I see lots of clues, but then there was a point in time when I just started feeling differently. So I'm still married, I'm still in London, and I'm starting to feel different in my gender presentation. And I
Right.
started doing things about that, and that led to, I don't know, 15 years of, like stepping into bit by bit, like bit of hair, bit of clothes, and eventually seeking medical help, and then eventually discovering, the pathway, and so
Is
I'm
this while you were still married? You were
yes,
doing this?
yes,
Okay.
yes,
Okay.
particularly in Sydney, like those
Mm-hmm.
years that I described,
Mm-hmm.
and so I'm really not being successful in my business, and I'm really dissatisfied about my gender as well.
Right.
So I've got these double whammies going on
Mm-hmm.
at the same time, and curiously, like 2019 was the year that I came out as trans,
Mm-hmm.
and it was the same year that I left my family, and I haven't seen my family since then, or my children.
Wow.
So I have 3 children.
Wow.
And so they're kind of grown up. My youngest is just about to turn 20,
Mm.
and that was the point where I started finding happiness again.
Mm.
When I
So can
left,
I
mm,
I was
yeah,
just going to ask you, sorry to
yeah,
cut you off.
no,
So you are going through this process, and it seems to me like when you're feeling like an imposter. So imposter syndrome is like,
yeah,
it's there, it's present, and you're experimenting, or at least looking into these different ways that you can sort of negate these feelings, or figure out what's going on, right? And you're married. How did that affect your relationship with your wife at that time? Like your were you open with her? I guess that's my question. Not necessarily I know it affected the relationship, so that's a silly question. But the question is, were you open with her about your feelings? Because I know you said you didn't really have that connection even from the beginning. So how did you sort of maneuver through this process and discover that this is what you wanted to do? And then ultimately, I mean, you must have gone through this because you left in 2019, and that's when you came out as transgendered. So you went through this while you were married. How was that for you in that dynamic? I can only imagine it was probably difficult,
How was
to
it
say the
handled?
least.
I think badly is the word.
Mm,
I had no clue how to speak to my family.
yeah.
I had none at all, and when I did come out and say I'm a trans woman,
Hmm.
and this is really early on, and I've had surgery, and I didn't look like this then. I looked
Right.
like who I was before more.
Right. Right.
But the first person I told was my younger sister and
Hmm.
her husband, and that was scary because their opinion really mattered to me. But they were so supportive of me, and 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 almost everyone else has been.
Right.
You know, the other sister, she doesn't get it, and various people. But telling my own family and my own children, I just didn't know how to do that, and and it was so difficult. And I'm sure it was difficult for them, but I said to her, we need to have a chat. I said there are four things. I want to say I want to get divorced.
Hmm.
I haven't got any money, which I kind of didn't have any money.
Right.
um, I wanted to stay in Sydney, but I didn't end up doing that. Went back to Adelaide, and I'm changing gender. What do you
Mm.
want to talk about? The gender didn't get a look in. It was all like, oh, we shouldn't have come to Australia. It was terrible, and like I teach mindset now. I'm a coach, and
Mhm.
I know about cause and effect. Like being at cause and being at effect, and that kind of
Mhm.
thinking. Blame, victimization, justification, and so forth, and taking responsibility for ourselves and for our outcomes and our actions. And this is not who she is, or certainly wasn't then, and I don't suppose she's changed. But it's all my fault, all external to her. She's got nothing to do with it. Kind of.
Mhm.
That's my view. But it it didn't go well, Jessie,
Yeah.
and I've just been through this such a shock with a divorce settlement. Which like I won't go into the details of that, but
Yeah.
it's cost me a fortune
Right.
actually, and so now I am 66, and I've only just now found myself to somewhere to live from like next week, and in an environment where housing is difficult to get, you know,
Mhm.
and I'm working on building a business and an income in a new body in a new part of the world with a whole new lot of friends. I don't know where else to go in Australia or in the world. I love France. I speak French, but
Oh, nice.
I and so I've just come here and I'm rebuilding my life
Right.
and starting to have fun and play. And I played pickleball this morning. I don't know if
Oh.
pickleball is a big thing there,
It
but
well, what's funny you say that. I don't know if it's a popular thing here because I'm not really into sport. I'm into baseball and that's it. Go Yankees. But I have my son just started picking up this pickleball, and a friend of mine, a good friend of mine that's been a friend of mine, Rudy, for years and years and years. He also plays pickleball, and they talk a big deal about it. They invite us, and I'm like, "Are you kidding me? I don't know. I could barely function some days. My back hurts, everything hurts." But I kind of want to try it out. So, okay, so you picked up pickleball.
yeah, I
Nice.
like it because I've played a bit of tennis, and
Okay.
the bits of tennis that I'm not good at, like serving, well, you don't have to do that. so
Okay.
so I'll
In
get all the
pickleball, you
good
don't have to
bits.
do that. I don't
Not
really
like
know anything about pickleball. That's so funny. Now you're going to make me really
that.
want to know about it. Let me
Well,
ask you this really quick, Bobby.
yeah.
Did you, first of all, good for you for doing, I know there's in the short time that we have together, we can't get into all the details, and I'm sure there's so much more to you and to your story. And so I just want to say really quick that acknowledge that this isn't easy always to talk about. And I genuinely appreciate you being open and transparent and sharing on this platform, because that's what we're all about, is living from our authentic selves, right? And being and living on purpose, because this is where you're meant to be. And sometimes there's, collateral damage along the way, and things that get punctuated by the things that we do, right, in our life. And that's hard. It's hard to contend with those things and sort of come to terms with those things. But I commend you for doing what you're doing, and just being on a platform where you're acknowledging that this is where you are today and this is the space that you're in. It's a beautiful sort of transformation that has happened for you, and an evolving thing that's happening for you. And I can appreciate that very much. I do have one question. When did you, because you say you're a coach and you teach mindset and that type of stuff, when did you become the coach? When did this all happen or transpire? Or when did you realize that that is what you wanted to do?
Okay, when I was in the UK, do you remember I was saying I was trying all of these things and doing other things? I did a lot of personal development back there. Okay. And that's when I first started doing some things with like Tony Robbins, T. Harv Eker, Robert Kiyosaki, these kinds of people and their programs. And I did a lot of these sorts of things. And I felt at the time, I was like a table with lots and lots of legs, competencies. I could do lots of things, but I had no top. I didn't know what it was for. What were all these competencies holding up? And I was looking for, like a lot of people look for their passion. Like they want to know what is my purpose here on this planet. And I kind of help people do that now, help them find their passion and their why and get lit up again. And this mentor, he tapped me on the chest here and he said, that's where you find it. My other name wasn't Bobbi at the time, but that's where you find it. And I didn't know what he meant, by that, like, what are you talking about? It's in there, and I'd been looking for my passion everywhere. I thought it was, like
everywhere else, not here.
Behind the cushions on the sofa, like, is it there? It's behind the fridge somewhere, and I just didn't know. And then I forgot about the personal development for, quite a lot of years, when I was in Sydney, and I just forgot about that part of my life until when I left my family and moved to Adelaide and was trying to run some businesses and started coming back into that. And I was trying to run some, like network marketing businesses, multi-level marketing sort of things. Yeah. And having no success whatsoever. And I'm feeling like a failure. And I'm feeling unsuccessful, like a failure, and working harder and harder and doing all the things that people said you should do, like post more, Bobbi, join the 30-day sprints and, all that kind of stuff. And I was like, no success. And so I thought it's either my market, my message, or me. And I knew it was me. I knew it was in me because fundamentally I've always known that I am responsible for my outcomes. Right. I've also been really optimistic about that I am here for something important, and I've never given up. I always, even when it was hard, I always knew that there was something I was meant to be doing here, and I just needed to keep looking for that. Right. And I had coaches in the past, and I was introduced to a new coach, and my new coach got me to stop doing all the doing. I had piles. I had like 30,000 emails that I hadn't opened. I had a table full of letters that I didn't have the courage, because I had this fear around money, income, and living in Australia was really expensive, and it was, I don't know how we made ends meet really, but we kind of didn't actually. And she got me to stop all the doing and start being, and stop all the forcing and the pushing and the controlling, and start trusting. And this is the journey for me now. It's that edge. It's trusting in me and trusting in the universe or whoever. And suddenly, I literally went and sat on a hill and did nothing, thought nothing, no music, no podcast, no.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden I started feeling like my can'ts were turning into cans. And yeah, I have been successful. I am a successful person. And here is all the evidence. I just didn't see the evidence because I was so focused on what I didn't have than what I did have.
Right.
And she said, Bobbi, what lights you up the most? Because I'd had all these ideas. Oh, I could do that. I could do that. I could do that. I wanted to I wanted to have a house with a catwalk in it. I thought that would be so cool, and I could have women come and we sort of dress up and step into our personas. I thought, geez, everyone needs a catwalk in their house, don't they?
Have a show in your own house. I like
I
that.
know, with big mirrors and
The lights.
photographers and everything,
That's
and
awesome.
the music, and we can.
Yeah, of course. Got to have that. Yeah.
But and she said, well, what lights you up? And I said, I think I will make more of an impact with what I say than with what I do. And that's when I came back to speaking. And that's like, I am good with words. I am good with crafting. I am a storyteller. I love the way that I can weave words to create an emotional impact, which comes back to like that opening minds, unlocking potential. That's what I want on this planet, to help elevate everyone to our highest expressions. And I love this metaphor about Michelangelo. There's a Renaissance sculptor in Italy who famously said that the statue is already in the stone, and his job was simply to carve away the stone to reveal what was already in there. And that's what I feel for me. It's I use words to help you carve away those bits, the stories, the limiting beliefs, the judgments, the people pleasing, the not good enoughness, all of those things that we cloak ourselves in to keep ourselves safe, because it's scary to chip that away. Yeah.
Agreed.
But the chipping away doesn't kill you. It just reveals more of the truth inside.
Yeah.
And that was when I discovered, like the speaking first. The speaking came first and the coaching came second, because I realized after a time that speaking was coaching.
Right.
That I am like moving a room of people a little bit to loosen the grip on that reality. This is my truth. This is my reality. Don't take it away from me. And I said, just prise that finger open a bit. Are you sure? Is it really serving you? Oh, look.
Right. That's beautiful. So let me ask you this. Do you, one question, and then we're going to, I know, unfortunately, I always say this with a lot of people that I speak with, and I'm saying it here too, because it rings true every time, that we do have to come to an end, even though I could keep going. So one question, as you work with people to chip away what's already there, what's one thing that you can tell people? Because fear is a motivating factor for people to stay in their cloaked, in that safe place, right? Because it's safe, but it's not living your purpose. It's not living from your truest self. What do you say to somebody, very quickly, who is feeling that fear so like that they're willing to start chipping away? How do you get them to get to that place?
Well,
Or how do you coach them to get there? Because coaching is different, because you're not giving, you're just helping them to reveal the things about themselves on their own. So how do you do that?
so when people come to be coached when they've got some kind of presenting problem,
Mm-hmm.
some kind of specific issue that they want to, whatever it is, like, and often it's something like being stuck, like, and being stuck is in freeze, like,
Yeah.
and being in freeze is a nervous system thing. It's, like, it's the chemicals that get pumped through our bodies because we learn to freeze, and that was me through my life, like with my parents, with my father in particular. I couldn't fight or flight, so I froze, and I people pleased and so forth, right now.
Right.
If you look at, so I've had two transitions. Like, I've had transitions all my life in all sorts. We're all transitioning all the time, but for the argument's sake, I've had two transitions. One is my gender, and one is my mindset. Mm-hmm. And the gender was going from a pain to pleasure, and the pain was living in the body. That wasn't my truth anymore. The pleasure was the dream. I formed a dream in the course of counseling and so forth that I had, and it was me standing on a beach in a swimsuit with my hair falling onto my shoulders and the wind blowing across my skin, and that was me as a woman on the beach. And so, but what I'm trying to say is that there was an away from and a towards, and for me the towards was way more. I wanted the towards more than I was frightened of doing it. Do you see what I mean? Like,
I understand.
And it was the same with my mindset. Like, all my life, I wanted to be an entrepreneur, and I got to the point in my life that I was so unhappy with my state of affairs. I was so frightened about the regret of not fulfilling my potential, of the time going by when I'm here on this planet for a purpose, and the longer it takes me to fulfill my purpose, the longer it takes for other people to benefit from what I have to say and the benefit of me, like, and like that fear, it's kind of selfish in that way, because you don't benefit from the gifts and the talents and the passions. And so the people who are frightened, I get that they're frightened. I get that they're frightened. And yet, how do we conquer fear? We never conquer fear, but how do we? Little steps, like that question, what do you want? What do you want is such a hard question to answer, because people limit it with what they think they can get. It's never going to happen to me, so why bother thinking about it? And people don't really dream big enough, and don't really, when you're really clear on what you want and you're committed to it, there's nothing can stop you. Like, so for me, with a commitment, the commitment to, like, I want to know who I am on this planet. I want to know what I'm capable of. And every day is a day of discomfort because I go to the edge and do new things, things that I've never done before, things that scare me. And I tiptoe into them, and I do bits of them, and I take little steps, and I go a little bit closer, and I look back and I say, oh my God, how far have I come?
Right.
And my wanting to know what I'm capable of on this planet far exceeds my fear of finding out, my fear of doing the work. I just can't contemplate not doing this journey, uncomfortable as it is. Like I told you, I've got a new house place that I'm moving into next week.
Right. Yep.
Until yesterday, I didn't know that.
Wow.
Until yesterday, I was going to be out on the streets, and that I've been traveling around Australia speaking, going from place to place, not knowing where I'm going to be and trusting. And you know what happened? Every night I found somewhere to live, to stay. Every day the universe provides in some way, and that expression, Roosevelt, the only, was it Rose? No, your president. Yeah, FDR. Yeah, the only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
Yes.
And I didn't understand what that meant until quite recently, because I realized that people are frightened of the emotion.
Right.
And the emotion never actually kills us. And in this new part of my life and this discovery of emotional intelligence and personal power and the freedom that comes from that has been the capacity to help. I'm going to talk about my nervous system and my ability to widen the space between the stimulus of the event and the response to it, so that my nervous system feels safe and doesn't have to react with a whole bunch of chemicals that cause me to fight, flight, freeze, or fawn sort of thing. And that has made me able to have more power over my environment, more capacity to choose how I show up, more ability to create my own reality, more calmness, and more peace and happiness. And there are things that I do in my body. I process the somatic side of it, processing the emotions through my body and out.
Right.
And I have,
that's awesome.
And I think as a final thing, because I think we must be getting close.
Yeah, we are. We're over, but it's okay. I told you about that.
is that as a man, I never learned any of that. It was my transition that introduced me to a world of women who taught me to be emotionally vulnerable and to allow other people to be emotionally vulnerable without shame or judgment or making it wrong. And
wow.
This transition has given me such strength.
Right.
Such strength and power.
Right. Now, I have a question for you, and I know we're going to keep going here, but that you just struck something for me, because one of the things that my husband focuses on, he works with a lot of male, he's a male advocate. He contracts with an organization, and he does a lot of male groups and whatnot. And a lot of the focuses are like on highlighting this idea of men embracing vulnerability and sharing and tackling the ideas of loneliness that are a cause or the the consequence of not being able to be open and vulnerable and communicate things because that's just not the norm. How do you think, and then we'll end with this because I know we have to go, unfortunately, but how do you think, I mean, you just said it basically, but as a man, did you always feel like that those feelings were there, that you wanted to convey these messages, or did that simply just, I transitioned, I'm a woman, this is who I am, this is who I've always been, and now I can actually express myself? What would you say to just men in general about those feelings of vulnerability and just being a little bit more soft or extending more grace to themselves? And I am not a male advocate. I don't know anything about this stuff, but I'm just very curious about that because you've seen both sides of the coin,
Yeah.
right? So I'm just very curious because I think it's an epidemic with men who think that they cannot show up and do this because it's not the manly thing to do.
Well, absolutely. And it's a cultural
Right.
thing, like,
Right.
and I feel that my story highlights the fact that this is not innate. Like, there is so much that we think that's a man thing and that's a woman thing.
Yeah.
I don't think that's true. I think it's a cultural imprinting on, and we shame men for having feelings and crying, and we have expressions about that, like about, man up, boys don't cry, stuff like that,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
and then we reinforce that with gender stereotypes through the media, through, what you can buy in the shops and all that stuff, and it's hard to break out of that, and because for men it can be so shaming to be seen as effeminate or wussy or, like Nancy or, whatever sort of thing.
Yeah. I agree.
So more and more I see, like, men's groups and men's circles and helping to normalize the value of us expressing our emotions. And just recently here on the Sunshine Coast, I've organised some screamings on the beach. I've got people to come out on the beach and just scream, just to let that emotion out,
I
like,
love that. That's awesome. I've done that in my house in a
yeah,
pillow.
but to make it okay,
Right.
for us to have emotions as human beings.
Yeah.
And it's not normal to suppress them. It's normal to release them,
Right.
and men too. Yeah.
Okay.
But not all women are good with with their emotions either,
Oh
and
no, I 100%. We could go into a whole nother podcast episode on that too.
yeah.
So, Bobbi, sadly, we do have to come to an end, but I do want to ask if anybody wanted to get in touch with you, sort of learn more about what it is that you're doing and how you're giving back as this person, this new person, how would they, with this new perspective, I love it, how would they go about doing that?
I would so be delighted if for people to do that. I can be contacted through my website, which is bobbibarrington.com. So it's Bobbi with an I, Bobbi. Also on Instagram and LinkedIn, and you can find me on Facebook as well. As it's not Bobbi Barrington, someone else got there first, unfortunately, but it's Bobbi Girl 1. Bobbi, that's me.
Got it.
But I'm sure if you search for Bobbi Barrington, you'll find me. Yeah.
Right. Well, it's been amazing. It's been a pleasure to get to know you. I really appreciate you being so transparent and vulnerable and sharing your life with our audience. And I know that there's one person out there that this definitely resonates with, or probably a ton of people. It resonates with me. So I
It's been
appreciate you.
amazing.
Thank
Such
you.
a delight. Thank you, Jessie.
Thank you for tuning into the ASQ podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure you like, follow, and subscribe so you'll never miss a powerful story.
And if you have a story of courage, transformation, or triumph that you'd like to share, we'd love to hear from you. Visit us at asqempowerment.com. Until next time,
Lead your life.
shape your culture,
Begin within.